You guys, this is the episode you have been waiting for. Andrea Lake 101, The Making of a Billionaire. Secrets of the Apprentice. When you are on a competition reality TV show where there is a cash prize, where people are getting voted off or fired or what have you, when it is your time to leave, the producers literally call it your episode. This is your episode. The story is centered around you. You are the main character of this show. And ladies and gentlemen, episode 9, season 5 of The Apprentice was my episode. But the behind the scenes story is so fucking wild, up to and including me being at Milken Institute with Mark Burnett and Steve Wynn the night that my firing episode aired, and Donald Trump called me the next morning. Yeah, he did. True fact. In this episode, there are allegations of attempted murder. Am I making that up, girl? You know there's a reason my book is called You're Gonna Think I'm a Pathological Liar. Is this a second episode in a row that I filmed? Nah, it's the third. I did a Sticker Wars episode and then Secrets of the Apprentice, last week's episode, and now this episode. So I've already had a full glass of wine to tell the pizza task challenge, and I realized I forgot some things. But I didn't forget them. I actually didn't find them out until the next day. I did not know them while they were happening. So we're going to dive into everything. Food poisoning allegations, that is attempted murder over a game show. That did not happen. Firing, so many things. So this is actually not going to be the last episode of Secrets of the Apprentice. This is going to cover Episode 9 of Season 5. The challenge was going to Ellis Island. I had previously been the project manager and won twice in a row as project manager, and we had won, I think, 4 times in a row because of this operations system that I put into place with these spreadsheets. And I just need to get through until there's another merge, because I'm 1,000,000% leaving my team behind and correcting this mistake of not going with the other team next time we merge, period. End of story. I am unaware of how uninformed that Donald Trump is of what happens in the tasks. I come to find out later something which I told you on an earlier episode, which is that a lot of times the production team does not want to give Donald Trump any input at all whatsoever. Why? Because if they say you have to keep this person, they're our storyteller, he will just fire them just to piss off the production team and say, you don't control me. You can't tell me what to do. So nobody wants to give favoritism towards a person because they're afraid if he's in a bad mood, he'll just fire them because, a little impulsive. That makes for good television. We've all seen that a lot. I come to find out he is not informed that I am kicking all of the ass and the reason that all of these things are running so smoothly. And remember how I took that memory card before and pulled that spreadsheet off of there? I forgot to say I almost lost it when I put it back on there. Like, I couldn't pull it up properly from the memory card, so I wanted to take my spreadsheet from them just in case they got fired, and I can't remember if I was able to do that or not because I was afraid I wouldn't be able to reinstall it because I almost couldn't reinstall this spreadsheet, and that would have put us so far back when I was project manager, and it was terrifying because technology wasn't seamless back then like it is now. So I literally can't remember if I pulled that spreadsheet off or not. They still won. My team still won a little while afterwards. It made it look like I wasn't that important, except for that then it was the blind leading the blind. All you had was people that didn't have very much experience in business competing against each other. And it was like quite similar to when the founder of Spanx was on Richard Branson's very similar Apprentice style show. I actually wanted to apply to go on that show. Business-wise, I couldn't leave my businesses for that long, and I'm sure we would have loved each other. And the guy from Lovesac was there. So they had 2 like real entrepreneurs competing against a bunch of not entrepreneurs, and it was the 2 of them in the end, which makes all of the sense. So in this particular case, I was only like banger entrepreneur on there. So of course I thought I would be there at the end. So it's Allie's turn to be project manager again. And when she was the project manager the first time at that credit card processing thing, I was the one who won that task because I intimately understood the product. And so I sold the fucking shit out of it because I could proselytize for it and it wasn't made up. And so she did not want me to do not one single thing with this task. She did not want me to be involved at all in any way whatsoever. And in between the task being given out, I had heard whispers. After we won, after we got back from DC, I still had to go do one of those fucking OTF interviews. It was like 2 in the morning. You guys, I wake up at like 4 a.m. even still to this day. I go to bed at like 8 o'clock at night. As ridiculous as it is that I'm drinking wine right now, it's like 5 o'clock. I'll be asleep at 8 o'clock. I'm just an early birdie. So when I get back from DC past midnight, they pull me into an OTF and ask me about food poisoning allegations. Sorry, excuse me, huh? What? Excuse me? What? Honestly, what though? Food poisoning? Oh yeah, Roxanne said you poisoned her food. I was like, what? I kind of heard this. I want you guys to remember how very little sleep that we get on The Apprentice. You guys tuck fucking in, get your wine, get your popcorn, get your snacks, because I've got all of the tea on this episode. Roxanne had just barely graduated from law school. I'm certain she is a fabulous attorney now. I heard she wrote a book. I'm sure she's done great things with her life, but she was a barely baby. I think she was like 26 when she was on the show. And I am sure she's done fabulous things with her life. She told me she wanted to be a judge. I literally look right at her. I'm like, you'd be a great judge. You should be a judge. I'm not saying anything bad about her. She wanted to get me out. And she got me out, her and Allie and Tammy. So we get on this task. They want me to have nothing to do with anything. I'm like, okay, cool. But she was equally as sleep deprived as I was. So I am a really good cook, true fact. And so when I was project manager, got up early, which is like a very big deal, to sacrifice an hour of sleep. And it had become this really big problem that like, I wasn't getting enough to eat. A lot of people on our team weren't getting enough to eat. You guys, I tried my whole adult life to gain weight. It's wild that I have been trying to lose weight right now, but I was 5'10" and 127 when I went on that show. That's insanely thin. And when I stepped off of that show, I was 114 pounds and I was eating everything I could, but we were burning through so many calories with so much adrenaline and so little sleep. The way that I ate was like quantity, volume. I have been a vegetarian since I was like a kid, like 16 years old. And so I would eat like tons of like grains and like black beans and tofu and proteins and lots of vegetables and lots of fruits. But when I was on The Apprentice, I was eating like junk food literally for the first time in my adult life. I remember eating Oreos. I'm like, I haven't eaten Oreos in like 15 years. I just do not eat this kind of food. I eat so clean and so healthy. So I'm eating all of this like the vegetarian thing at a fast food restaurant because that's where we had time to stop. And I am just like dropping weight right and left and not getting proper protein, not getting proper anything because, I'm used to this like profoundly healthy diet. And kind of no matter how many calories I would eat, I just would never gain weight because I was so into hiking and so into hot yoga. It was really easy for me to lose weight and it was really hard for me to gain weight. So I never did anything to be like in shape. I just liked things that kept me in shape just naturally. I'd never tried. So if I wanted all the nachos, I would eat all the nachos. But I was eating like food that I used to say like, that's not even food, like McDonald's fries or the English muffin or any vegetarian thing I could get if we went through the drive-through is so disgusting and not how I ate. So that morning I'm like, okay, I'm going to be project manager for the second time. So I'm going to make a huge scramble. And I think I made like breakfast potatoes. I don't even remember what I made, but this is what I alluded to on a way earlier episode of The Apprentice when I'm like, I didn't have any butter and I didn't have any olive oil. So somebody like didn't like milk and just got homogenized milk. And then somebody else like didn't like butter. So just insisted that we only have margarine, which is a no for me. And then I was like, can you get me olive oil? But instead they got like Pam, like a spray thing that for olive oil that's not olive oil, which was weird because they shopped at Whole Foods. And so I'm making this thing, and usually when I make a scramble like that, I'll put like half oil and half butter, but I only had like Pam and like margarine. And I did not want to use margarine. So I just used Pam and made this beautiful breakfast for my team so that we would not be starving. And I lost an hour of sleep to do it. Apparently, Roxanne took this beautiful plate of food and ran in front of a camera real fast, because remember I said she likes the camera, because I think she did, and dumps my plate of food that I made her into a trash can and says that I tried to poison her food. She went to law school. She knows that's attempted murder over a game show, but she was equally as sleep deprived as I am, so she might have thought that that's what happened. But I promised you I'd read a passage from Ramin Satuti's book, Apprentice in Wonderland. This is a verified actual thing that Ramin, for his New York Times best-selling book, went and fact-checked this happened. It was wild. It did not make the air. Apprentice in Wonderland, page 174. Boss of all celebrities. Lake was eventually fired over something deeply silly, so much so that it seemed to prove how far the apprentice had slipped into soapy dramatics. Facts. Some of the other women on Lake's team, seeing that she was such an overachiever, aligned against her to make up a rumor that she had tried to poison the food in the apartment. True fact. You guys. Lake was so paranoid that she'd be portrayed as a murderous villain. Actually true. I don't know if I would have used so paranoid, but not incorrect. That she remained quiet in the boardroom about these false accusations. Correct. So all of a sudden before we even go into task number 9, I am getting all these questions about having poisoned people's food. I know that there is an imminent pending contract with Blizzard Gaming and big video game licenses, and I am like, the fuck? Like, a chick that's a jazzercise instructor doesn't have anything to lose right this second, and I do. And I'm like, are you shitting me? That is attempted murder. You are a lawyer. How are you saying that? Are you fucking kidding me? But I didn't understand how reality TV worked, and people throw around shit like that all the time, and you have big ass, like, I'm not going to sue anybody for any edit things going on. So she's just playing it up to whatever her strategy is. It worked. I got fired. And throws away the food. I'm getting asked all of these questions. And I say to the producers, like, hey, I am not responding to any of this, period. Remember how I told you in the last episode, like, they say a sentence to you and you say a sentence back to them? I was not playing ball. I was like, I will not comment at all whatsoever in any way, because if I do not comment at all whatsoever in any way to these allegations of attempted murder, then they will not make the air. Well, guess what? That was right. That was true. They didn't make the air, and it was good television, and Trump was pissed that I wouldn't play ball, because it would have been edited some way and somebody else would have went home and whatever, I would have won and it would have been fine. But I didn't see any path forward that I wanted anyway, and I was 1,000,000% of the tired as thoroughly canvassed. So I know that there's these swirling, fucking ridiculous allegations of food poisoning spinning around among this cadre little cauldron of women, and I all of the don't like them either. So we get the task. Allie makes it super clear that she does not want me at all whatsoever in any way involved, and I immediately make a list of every single store that she should call and do bulk sales to, their hours of operations, and that she needs to do this fucking immediately right now before they close, and again in the morning before they open. Bulk sales from the start. First thing I said. Fucking obvi. Then I was like, why don't you make them? Because she made some comment about she's a brilliant salesperson and I'm not. And I'm like, go fuck all of the way off. And instead of doing any of that, she like ran off to do a bunch of whatever with Tammy. And she's like, and I said, let me go make the bulk sales because she's the project manager. No, I need you to design the brochure. And I'm like, can Sean and Roxanne go design the brochure? You are an expert in graphic designer. I'm like, babe, I have graphic designers that work for me. I'm good at design, but I am not a graphic designer. This is the second time that you have said this. And I am good at all of the business things because I own a lot of businesses, but I'm not a graphic designer. Go design the cover. Cool. I go design the cover. I actually don't sort of understand that there's going to be no image on the back until the very last second. And I'm like, whatever, it's fine. Just go, because it's either going to be like no image on the back or no brochure at all. And I talked about mirroring the thing and I'm like, no, it'll be fine. Like, whatever. I truly just thought whatever, because the honest truth is we didn't have time to finish the brochure before the deadline. And it didn't matter if the brochures were good or not. The other team's brochures were missing like 4 interior pages. There was something to rip apart from everyone because this was a particularly short task. Because when I looked up all of the like tourist shops that we needed to call right fucking now to get bulk sales in, to have them in for the morning so we could shoot us stocking it in a store, we only had like an hour or an hour and a half to call all of them. And she's like, no, you need to go do this. And I'm like, okay, well, you need to call all these stores, and gave her a list of stores. On the TV show, it makes it look like I say last second on a boat over to do the task when we're almost finished with the task for the very first time ever. Oh, you know I'm an expert in bulk sales. I'm like, go fuck all of the way off. I was rubbing it in her face then because I've been telling her over and over again, you need to sell this store, this store, this store, this store. This block of stores right here. This block of stores right over there. You need to set this up this way. Get XYZ over here. She did not want to hear it, and she put me in a separate location so she wouldn't hear it, and she didn't want me to use the organizational spreadsheet, so it was like the most disorganized piece of shit thing ever. I had checklists for when you left a location. Make sure you have X, Y, Z. Literally, make sure you have the dossier with like the team, whatever the fucking task is, because you would have to refer back to that a bunch of times. Make sure you have X backpack and this box of stuff and your planner or journal or notebook or whatever. And she lost this, but like that was all, every single thing. This Excel spreadsheet was so big and it covered every little potential error point that she could have. She didn't want to run a tight ship, or she thought she could run a tight ship without having operational excellence in place. And I'm like, what, how are you upset even about using this spreadsheet? We're going to lose now. And in my mind, it was so clear that she would get fired if we lost. But in her mind, I don't think she even cared that she lost, because she was like, in her mind, it was so clear that I was going to get fired, as evidenced by the fact that that episode starts out with Allie and Roxanne and Tammy in a cauldron together, being like, there's going to be blood on the boardroom walls. There's going to be blood on the boardroom walls. There's going to be blood on the boardroom walls tonight. And then they cackle, laugh. Then they sing like the witch is dead and cackle, laugh again when I leave. I'm like, good luck, ladies. Good luck. Carolyn's exact quotes, really, flyers again. The whole thing was so gross. So they don't want to do any bulk sales. They just want to lose so that I go home, is what I believe, because they have already contrived to be like, we're just going to lie about her and we'll overwhelm her and she won't know how to respond. Because they did catch the jive of like, I'm not responding to any of these allegations. And like, because I had a career, I had multiple businesses. I had so many employees at the time too, depending on me. I couldn't go make an ass of myself on national TV and look like, and be super incompetent, or rise or yell back or scream in the boardroom. And that's where, when I said Mark Burnett gave me the worst advice ever to be given to anyone, he said, no matter when people look foolish or ridiculous, or they yell and scream, or they're just acting insane, you just conduct yourself like you're on a job interview, because you, meaning me, you are on a job interview. And I was like, I am super aware of that. And he was like, cool, you'll just skate right through. Nothing is going to stop you. So I didn't rise back, because of his advice. Also because I knew they couldn't edit it if I didn't engage. So we do the Ellis Island challenge. We fail. And actually, I think they made it look like we failed badly, but we did not even fail that badly. We failed the difference of getting 2 or 3 little stores that were on the shore that were tourist shops that Allie decided, for reasons best known to herself, not to sell big orders to. And then they edited it to make it look like I had never thought of that. And that day, remember when I teased ahead of the fact that there was a day on The Apprentice that I got $500,000 in orders for my company? Yeah, it was that day. I got $500,000 in sales for my company that day. And that night when we went to the boardroom, Allie was screaming about how I am not a good salesperson and she's an amazing best salesperson that's ever been salesed. And I was like, well, maybe Allie could sell a $2 or $3 product. I sell millions of dollars worth of stuff. I sold $500,000 today worth of items. But then the food poisoning allegations came up, and then they accused me of like lying to George. I literally don't remember what that was about, but it was some convoluted fucking nonsense that I used to know the whole story of, and a couple other things. And they're like, she's XYZ. And I'm like, cool. And at one point in the boardroom, because we lost the task, I think I skipped ahead. We lost the task, obviously. And so Gold Rush did some kind of poker thing. And we go to the boardroom, and I just think they're going to leave. But I'm also like so done. I'm so disgusted with everyone in this process. I am disgusted by people that lie. I am disgusted by it. And I am disgusted by injustice. It's hard for me to exist in the world these days. But also, I'm just like, get me the fuck out. Get me all of the fucking way out of here. Or at least get them gone. And I think this is going to resolve itself, because Allie has failed so hard as project manager. I know they edited it in a way to make it look like something, but it's just truly not what happened. So I'm certain that she's just going to get fired, because she has failed so hard as project manager. And I do not understand reality television like at all. And so all these false allegations are spinning around, and they start to yell a lot. And they're yelling over me, and every time I try and talk, I just stop. Because I'm just used to people listening to me when I talk. I do not yell over anyone, because I don't need to in general. Then the food poisoning allegations come up, and I will not speak. I will not talk about them. I have consistently not talked about them. And so Trump looks at me for a response to these 3 women just literally screaming and yelling. Roxanne just she said to one of the judges that she was a trial lawyer, and I scoffed because she's 26 years old. And the judge said back to her, because he had been a lawyer, you've tried a case, because she was at 1 month out of law school. She was like, yeah. And in my mind, I'm thinking, like, in student court, literally you're a month out of law school. You did not argue a case in front of a judge, and you're 1 month out of law school. Maybe she did. Maybe it was a pro bono case for like a parking ticket. I don't know. But like, she made it sound like she was a trial attorney. And I'm like, cool. Good luck with that. You graduated from a fancy law school like a second ago. I was specifically so angry with her because she was a lawyer. And I'm like, you know that you are legitimately just accusing me of attempted homicide right now over a game show. But all of them just Mm-mm. So Trump keeps getting me to try and defend myself, and I am thinking, because of Mark's advice, that my best option is to just be classy. But I said to him, if you cannot see the difference between myself and these three women sitting next to me, then I have nothing more for you. Because right now I'm competing. I think I said these in two different parts, because I was like, I'm competing right now to get basically a PhD in commercial construction in exchange for the use of my brain for a year, which is no small trade. And so if you cannot see the difference between myself and these three ladies that are sitting next to me, then I have nothing else for you. And I meant it. And he went, Andrea, you fired. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I'm out of here. Fucking peace all of the way out. I heard the production people behind the scenes go, no! Because I was the storyteller of the season. And there is a rule in reality television because they want you to be able to pick up from any episode within the season. So if you're watching like Survivor or Apprentice or Amazing Race or any like high dollar show that costs a lot to produce, if you start on episode 10, you're not going to really hear about anybody else in the previous episodes. You're going to hear what's going on with the characters in the current episode because they don't want to lose you and feel like you missed the thread, and so you're not going to watch it. And I did remain a friendship with one of the associate producers who was like, Andrea, they opened episode 10 and 11 by talking about you, the two episodes after I was gone. Then I was out entirely for one episode, and then I came back for the two episodes in the finale, which I will tell that story next. But what happens after I got fired was I went to the Ponderosa, and I will tell that story in a whole other episode of like what happens when you get fired off of a reality TV show, because it's kind of wild, and how I got brought back in, and then we'll probably do like a finale episode. But let's fast forward into me watching it on the air. Because the season had lost so many ratings that it aired, I think, like 9 months after the original air date was supposed to be. We didn't even know if it was going to make the air or if it had gotten canceled, even though it was already shot. There was no publicity. There was no press around it at all whatsoever. We were not even invited to go into like NBC shows. Like previous contestants have been on NBC's late night talk shows and have been on like the Today Show by NBC. But there was no press for this. And it still was a multi-million-dollar Mark Burnett show, but like it was wild, the degree of no press there was. It was really sad for my businesses. So even though they did a 400% multiple that year because of The Apprentice, they would have done so much more if there was more press receptivity. So I actually missed an important point, which was that I did have a rule in the boardroom because I had had all this success, and it was so weird to me that we were competing against these people that we actually all really liked each other when we were hanging out like in the suite. And that we would cheer in somebody else's face when we would win and they would lose. So I did not allow my team to do that. And it's not good for television that I did not allow my team to do that. So it was easy for them to be like, oh, see, she's trying to be humble, but just because she knows she's just lucky and she doesn't gloat. Because I really wouldn't gloat, because I felt really bad for the people when they lost. And then they gloated, though, like 1 or 2 times that they won. And I was like, you guys are assholes, but whatever. Like that was a side segment that I missed from my notes. So it kind of was easier seeing I wouldn't just be like, I really would in my on TV individually, I would just be like, yeah, I obviously came up with all that stuff. But when I was talking in the boardroom with Donald Trump, because I was the CEO, of course I would credit my whole team, because it doesn't matter what you create if your team doesn't do their thing. Like even when I was talking about the boys and girls episode and I'm like, did they paint a wall? Yeah, they painted a wall. Why did they paint that wall? Because I fucking told them to go paint that wall. I would still credit the team with painting the wall, because otherwise the wall wouldn't have been painted and the task wouldn't have been completed. So nothing gets done without a team, and CEOs that ever forget that, they fucking fail completely at life. Either they win and they extract every penny they can and all of their employees hate them, or they fail. Those CEOs like that. Those are the kind of the two options. And then CEOs who are just like, yo, I like business like some other people like football. So do you want to come play on my team? Because we'll just be a team and everybody will win when I win. And everybody likes those CEOs, and they can say all kinds of stuff like, do I have a high standard? Obviously. Am I super exacting? Yes. Do I keep people on my team that don't perform? No. Do the people that come along with me on the ride and have the right personality type to be on my team, do we all win together? Absolutely yes. So this whole season airs, and in it I am just seeing what a lucky life I live, because I sort of never realized how rarefied of a human experience I was living, because I just always was me, and there was no social media telling me there were other entrepreneurs, which is why it was so special to me when I got invited into Summit and other business groups so I could connect with other entrepreneurs, because I was like, oh my god, I'm not alone. Because when I lost everything in 2008, like some of my best friends were struggling to pay a $900 mortgage, and I had just lost $2 million in liquid cash. I didn't have anybody that had a relatable life experience to me at that point. And then social media came along, and I met hundreds, thousands of other entrepreneurs that understood exactly what I had been through and also helped me to dream as big as I could dream. So I can't say enough about surrounding yourself with your peers. And I can't say enough about how disappointing it was to me not for The Apprentice to not be that, because I truly, 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 truly thought it was going to be that. So then when I had these women who sort of mimicked my like middle school bullying sort of situation, and I was just like, get me all of the fucking way out of here as fast as possible, but just like in a graceful way. So even when I was fired, I truly was like fine with it. I really meant what I said when I was like, if you don't see the difference between me and the three women who are sitting next to me right now, then I have nothing for you. And when I'm like, oh, I have nothing for you, I meant I do not want to continue this either. It is astonishing to me that you cannot in a millisecond see the difference here. And if you can't, you and me, we're not going to jive. We're not going to be homies. We're not going to be besties. We're not going to probably do business together. I'm not going to probably want to do that because it's so transparent here. However, on his side of the table, in all fairness, he was like, you are making really not good television right now. And me, fair point. I really was not making good television right now. What I mean to say with all of my tea is I am making good television right now, but I was really not making good television back then. And so when he fired me, that's fair. Then the episode airs. So it's almost like I'm going to retract just a little bit, because I think there's some stuff that I forgot to mention about what happened between the episodes, like when we filmed them and as it aired, because Stacy and Summer and I kind of stayed in contact, and I stayed in contact with a lot of people on the show, actually. Sean and Pepe and Tarek and Dan Brody a bit. And so like I rented this beautiful house in San Diego when my first Chevy Tahoe thing was on the air, and we did a viewing party, or that might have actually been the episode where Summer was fired and we did the viewing party. And she got such a raw deal. Like, because Summer is such a beautiful woman, she just is. Like, I think that a similar thing happened to her in a much bigger way than it happened to me, but we both were really beautiful women, and people were like, oh, you're so beautiful, you're so beautiful. But no one was like, you're so brilliant, you're so creative, you're so talented, you're so hardworking. Summer had like 7 restaurants. You know how fucking hard it is to do a single restaurant? She had a chain of restaurants, her own chain, not a franchise, that she had created in Los Angeles. She was like a fucking restaurateur powerhouse. Then just like randomly got put into this category of like, she looked like a Playboy model. Do you know why? She was offered Playboy a couple of times because she dated a few professional athletes, and she declined it because she's like, nah, I'm good. I got all these restaurants. And she's super smart. But she got thrown into this category of just like this super beautiful woman who is always described as that first. And because I was like a little bit sharper and harsher, quite frankly, I don't have a restaurant personality. I have, I'll sell you a lot of fucking merchandise personality. All good, all worked out great for everybody. And so I'm still smart and sweet and nice and kind with the people that I meet, but I do have a bit of a harder edge. And I was like a redhead, and she was a bombshell blonde. And Stacy had been like sort of a beautiful, sort of dirty blonde look, but she had, I think, gone brunette. And all of us went together to the Milken Institute for the first time while we were on The Apprentice. Stacy had been before, and she had a good friend that worked with Milken, and she's like, hey, you guys, like, let's just go here. And then Stacy and I did a bunch of stuff together, and Summer and Stacy came out to my house in Santa Fe. Like, we just held on to a bond after being on the show. So we were all at the Milken Institute, and I want to do a shout out to Milken because I just went there like whatever 2 weeks ago, and a bit of a disclaimer because Milken has done a phenomenal, fantastic, incredible, amazing job of getting fantastical, brilliant STEM women, mathematically minded finance women, and women at all areas of success into their program now. And they've done a tremendous job of diversity globally with so many different countries. All of the diversity that you could want, you find at Milken now. And the first time that I went was like 2005 or 2006. It was their Media Convergence Conference, and it was, in fact, the week that my firing episode, so my episode of The Apprentice, was going to be aired. So we're at the Milken Institute for the first time, and we are rolling up, and they're like motherfucking Charlie's Angels. We got a brunette, a blonde, and a redhead. We are all wearing like the best designer clothes and the most tall heels and the exact right hairstyle, makeup, jewelry, all of the things that you would expect. And when I say the ratios were like 10 to 1, that's generous. They were probably 30 to 1, 30 men to 1 women. Because the Global Economic Institute, also called the Milken Institute, was not popular back then. That was created by Mike Milken. Many of you who are my age remember Mike Milken and his correlation with junk bonds, except for that this is my perception of it. Mike has a very particular personality, and nobody had any tolerance for anybody with a particular personality back then. Junk bonds were a thing. Very similar to crypto, to a lot of cryptos. Except for that, the cryptos I trade in have an actual value to their class. I believe all of the disclaimers. I own a lot of crypto. This is not investment advice. But the ones that I trade in, like people are building shit on the rails of that crypto. That's why I trade in it. But junk bonds were junk bonds. Excuse me, please go recollect their name. They're called junk. What is synonymous with junk? Trash. Zero, dumpster fire, nothing. Nothing. Junk. Actual junk. Spam. Something you throw away, something that is valueless, is called junk. And there were these bonds called junk bonds, which were basically like I'm going to go ahead and just synopsis it with all of the disclaimers that this is not financial advice. And I've had 2 glasses of wine, and so I might describe it wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm right. A junk bond is a valueless thing that mimicked to me like a game of chicken that a whole bunch of people would throw a whole bunch of money into and say, hey, this has a whole lot of value to it and we're going to pay for it. Similar to like, I don't know, a Beanie Baby. That people are like, we're going to pay all this money for a Beanie Baby. It's worth this exact amount of money because I'm willing to pay this exact amount of money, just like that big ass rock diamond that I talked about in the one episode. I'm like, cool. If people stop deciding to pay $5 million for the rock you're holding in your hand, then it is no longer worth $5 million. This is just an assessed thing that somebody is assigning a value to, which by the fucking way, I just described every currency on the planet. That is true of everything. It is worth a thing because a whole lot of people agree that it is worth that thing. If you have just followed me on that line of logic and want to learn more, read Jared Cohen's book, Money, the True Story About a Made-Up Thing, or Debt, the First 5,000 Years, or Money, an unauthorized biography. There's so many interesting books about what we give value to. And then if a whole bunch of people bail out, there's sort of nothing behind it. So like if you invest in Coca-Cola, what you are investing in is there many hundreds of millions or billions of dollars in annual revenue that you expect to extract some certain amount of profit every year that's going to give every single share of value. And there is a real thing that sells a real product associated to it that's going to be valuable. McDonald's, same thing. You're just betting that X amount of people are going to go eat at McDonald's and they're going to generate X amount of revenue from which they're going to pull out this little piece of profit and they're going to pay out their shareholders some amount of that dollar amount. A lot of stocks work that way. Then there's like crypto. Right? There's a meme coin. Like a lot of cryptos do have a value, but there's like a meme coin that is also in the industry known as a quote shit coin. No value behind it. So it's just a game of chicken. It's just going to get run up and whoever pulls out at the top wins and whoever went anywhere else but at the top, some degree of loses. Junk bonds, my understanding of them, all of the disclaimers, kind of same. So when junk bonds collapsed because people at the top pulled out all their money and some people got left holding the bag, they had somehow gotten a clearance. By they, I mean Wall Street. Some institutional investors on Wall Street somehow had some ability to sell junk bonds as a sort of high volatility part of their portfolio, right? You might take a bath, you might take a haircut if this goes the wrong way, but you might fucking get a luxury spa if it goes the right way. So junk bonds in that category. Then somehow, which I don't remember, even though I legitimately read a book about it, but like Apprentice episode wine, I don't remember how they lost their value, but they did lose their value. And then Mike Milken has a very particular personality and came across a wrong way to people before we understood that lots of very brilliant mathematical and tech people have very particular personalities. And he got left holding the bag and basically got blamed for the whole entire collapse of the junk bond market, which feels very unfair. A lot of people participated in the market. A lot of things made it a thing that you could trade. And I really don't remember the specifics of the case, so I might get bitten in the ass by saying this, but my recollection, to the best of my recall, many years ago, was that a whole lot of people participated in this market. A whole lot of people said that it was okay. It was probably not the best idea, in the same way that a lot of markets in the world are not the best idea to be investing in. But he was disproportionately blamed for the fact that that market exists. To the best of my recollection, that is what happened with Mike Milken. And then he did serve a prison term for that. And he got out of prison. That was very, very, very heavily publicized when I was a kid. And then he got out of prison, had paid his restitution to society, and also was like, I only ever wanted to do good in the world. I am just going to continue to go forward and do good in the world, even though I just got blamed pretty unfairly for a whole market that was all structured a certain way that he just was participating in. I don't know if that makes me sound like too much of an asshole, but to the best of my recollection, that is what happened there. I'm not trying to defend anything. I'm just kind of like, I'm a trader and I'm a little on the spectrum. And I feel like he was like, oh, this, with no bad intention, oh, this thing is really volatile and I can make money in it. Anyway, I'm at the Milken Institute and I am very excited. And I know Mike Milken's whole background because I followed his whole story. And nobody knows that my mentors, my trading mentors, are my mentors. I have not disclosed this to anyone in The Apprentice. So I'm very private about this. And then I'm meeting Mike Milken, and I also do not tell him that my trading mentors are my trading mentors, which is wild because he would have been impressed. He knows them. He'd have been like, whoa. I met Eric Weinstein, who was like on, I don't agree with all of his stuff, but he's on like Joe Rogan a lot. He's on a bunch of podcasts a lot. And he does a lot of stuff with a lot of tech people. And I told him who my mentor was, and he was like, what? That guy mentored you? And I was like, uh-huh. And he immediately was like, oh, okay, I see. I see who you are entirely. I'm like, uh-huh. So I'm in this room. And then I start to talk to Mike Milken, who I have never met before, even though I know a lot about him because I've read all of the trading books. And immediately I say enough things where he's like, whoa, who the fuck are you? So I enough impress Mike Milken that he's like, hey, look, I'm the only woman in this room. Not only did I have my Milken pass, I had like the gold star pass. I had like the pass, the VIP pass that gets you into all the best rooms. So I was at this like $100,000 dinner and I went to some thing, like there's a whole conference inside that conference. It's wild what goes on in the behind the scenes of that conference. Amazing interaction with incredibly interesting, fascinating people. It's not like people are like, oh, it's like the Bilderbergers. And I'm like, it's really not. It's really not. It's just a bunch of people who like each other and like maybe they strike some business deals together because they like each other. But the degree to which it sounds nefarious and is not nefarious, I can't the true believers will never believe what I'm saying, but it's what I'm factually telling you is it just is not like that. I've been in the inside rooms of the inside rooms and it's really just not the way that it seems that it's portrayed sometimes, like in ultra conspiracy theory. Or maybe I've just never been in the right room. I've been in a lot of the right rooms, but I haven't been in some of the ones that are happening right now, and they do seem wily. But still, I was at Milken and nothing like that. I was in the right places. So in 2006, the episode of The Apprentice where I get fired airs, and I am at Milken. It is the theme that year of media convergence, which means I met the founders of YouTube, and a guy I was dating at the time who actually met at that Milken and ended up dating says to me, should I invest in YouTube? And I was like, no, I don't know. And he had so many good deals in front of him. He's the guy that I would like go to his meetings and everybody just thought I was some fucking eye candy chick that was on his arm, and The Apprentice hadn't aired yet when we were dating, and so they'd just be like, oh, this is just some dumb chick that he's with. And they would say the stupidest shit they could possibly say in front of me when he would go to the bathroom. And then he would come back and I go, could you guys excuse us for just a second? Or sometimes I would say right in front of them, like the weakness in the deal point they had just identified in front of me while I was looking down at my phone because they thought I couldn't understand what they were saying. And then be like, you should literally bid like maybe $20 or $30 million less than you were just planning on bidding. Why would you assume that you were smarter than me? That was such a miscalculation. I don't even know what in my makeup would make you think that for a half of a second. And the fact that you did cost you. It did. So I'm at the Milken Institute. I meet the guys from YouTube. This is the fucking dumbest thing. But it's true, but I wasn't even wrong. I really wasn't even wrong. But hindsight, it wasn't really the dumbest thing because I was correct. But it did not go my way. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes you can have all the right logic in the world and luck. Just like Emily pointed out in the last episode, sometimes you could do all the right things and luck is not on your side. That's what happened right here. So we meet the guys from YouTube. My ex-boyfriend says, do you think I should invest in YouTube? And he's presenting me 3 or 4 different potential things. And there's only one pile of money, and it's a big pile of money, but I said, I don't know. He goes, well, why? What didn't you like about the deal? Because it was like oh my God, their valuation was so low back then. Oh, I was just so wrong. But I was right. I said, look, they have years of copyright litigation in front of them, years, and they are not the only player in the space. And I don't know who is going to want to watch somebody's fucking home videos, but like for real, because if you watch America's Funniest Home Video, so ridiculous. This is so long ago, you guys. Those are really highly edited. Who is going to watch all this unedited people just talking on YouTube? Well, if you are here listening to me talk for an hour, the answer is all of us. Like all of us. Who is my most obsessive podcast that I listen to every fucking week that I am dying when they leave me on cliffhangers? It is the Morbid Podcast. And they leave in all their fuck ups and their errors and when they say a word wrong, and it's so charming. And I am obsessed with them, and I am dying to one day meet them in person at some spooky little haunt in spooky season. So the degree to which I was wrong about what people would watch, how of course the average person would become so much better at editing and content, obviously yes, but most importantly, what I was not wrong about was like people are breaking copyright litigation right, left, and center. And because I owned the sales rights on Minecraft, it's the same reason that I was like jumping on Roxanne when she was doing the Norwegian cruise liner like sad commercial, and their actual like trademarked, copyrighted, very specific, very important to them, very like this is where people have fun dining room and you're showing people look sad. Not a great idea. So when I'm looking down the barrel of all of this copyright litigation, like you have a clip from Home Alone 2, right? So you're copyright infringing Warner Brothers. And then in that clip, some song, I don't know what song is playing in there. So you have Sons of Anarchy, and you have like the best song by like Mumford and Sons playing, and then somebody clips that into a YouTube clip. The quantity of copyright and trademark litigation violations that you have just committed are astounding. You take a movie like 8 Mile and one of Eminem's songs in 8 Mile and you throw that into a YouTube clip, it's ridiculous. And then if there's something else playing in the background that has another trademark litigation, so I was just like, they're going to be caught forever. And this is like my zone of genius. This is my business showing up and being like, that could go wrong, this could go wrong, that could go wrong. I've looked at this thing over here. The guy that I was dating was like, oh shit, fuck, wow, I didn't think of it from those 7 different angles. I'm like, There's so many layers deep that it can go. There's a Van Gogh in the background that's shot in this scene that has a whatever that got a copyright clearance. Or like if you watch the first Transformer movie, like there's a sticker junkie poster in the background of the kids' room. And they actually didn't clear that with us. They should have. But like that is a copyright infringement if it got used from anywhere else unlawfully other than the movie itself. So there's so many layers of things that get signed off for in use in the production of a television show. And if you just like randomly throw it up on a screen, yikes. I said for those reasons, maybe don't, especially then the music royalty hasn't been figured out. I don't even know how they're going to get under all of those things. That's what I said. That is so true, you guys. And the degree of smart that I sounded in 2005 when I explained it so articulately in like 2 minutes was like, woo, who the fuck is this? Is my new ride or die? What? I'm like, Sky dated after Jack. He didn't invest in YouTube and he still likes me as a person. It's astounding because that would have gone so very all of the well for him. I think they were asking for like $500,000 for so much of YouTube. I can't recall exactly what the deal was, but it was a very lot of percentage points for what would have been a lot of money, but not like a crazy amount of money. So I'm at the Milken Institute. All of this is going on, and my season of The Apprentice airs that night. But I'm at this like $100,000 dinner thing. I went to a bunch of them. And Mike Milken comes up to me and says, hey, Steve Wynn is here. And I'm like, cool. Because I've been meeting crazy people all day. I sat next to like Terry Simmel, who is the CEO of Yahoo, and I just met the CEO of Warner Brothers and all of the huge companies. And Mark Burnett was speaking on one of the panels. And weirdly, like his panel, I feel like it got moved at the last minute or something, but it was not well attended, which is weird. It was like a really small panel, and he was such a big deal at that point. So I was like in the front row. And he knew my episode was airing that night, and so did I. And so we were like connected afterwards. I actually have a picture. Oh man, I wish I was at my house in Sedona right now, because I have a picture of us together at the Milken Institute that night or that day. And he's like, oh, your episode is da-da-da. And then he told me, he's like, Donald just watched your episode yesterday. He was super unhappy. And I'm like, why? Because I hadn't seen it yet. You guys, I did not. When Donald Trump even called me and commented on it, I was so busy at Milken that night that I didn't see my episode that aired. And there were no like VCRs. There were VCRs, but there was no like instant playback. And I didn't own a TV anyway. So I actually didn't see my firing episode until like way later because I was at Milken and I didn't leave the dinner to go watch it. So I actually didn't know exactly how it was aired for a long time. Mark Burnett told me how it was going to play out. And he told me about the women saying there's going to be blood on the boardroom walls. And I was like, those fucking bitches. And I don't even like to say that. I don't like the way that sounds. I don't call women that. If I say the word bitches, I am usually referring to men, which I shouldn't even call them that, because bitches are badass female dogs and they are fucking amazing and they're protecting their little baby puppies. So I should never use that as a derogatory term. I had wiped it completely out of my vocabulary, and then I started listening to Morbid so much and they say it all the time and it's funny to me. So I started saying it again, but I should probably stop because I don't want to do anything that disempowers women. Even telling this story of these women coming against me, they had whatever conditioning they had on their side and they were correct to do it. They needed to get me out to win. In the same way that like I needed to get them out to win, but I didn't feel like I needed to do anything. I thought that would just play itself out. And I did say to Mark when I ran into him at the Global Economic Institute, I was like, you gave me the worst fucking advice because I conducted myself in a professional manner and it is what got me fired. He's like, I know. I'm like, So I always have felt like Mark probably called Donald and was like, it would mean a lot to her if you called her or whatever, because he does not usually call contestants once he fires them. Do you want to know why Donald Trump called me after he saw the episode where he fired me? It was because he was mad at me. That sounds right. Not to console me. What? No, stop it. 0%. He called me up the next day. My cell phone rings. It is an unknown number. And Mark told me, like, Donald might call you. And I was like, cool. But I didn't know if that was like normal, whatever. So I see an unknown caller, but a New York area code, and I pick up my phone and it's a woman. And she's like, this is the secretary, hold for Donald Trump. And I was like, cool. And he comes on the line and he goes, Andrea, I just watched the episode from last night. And I was like, Now let's all remember, I'm the one who was just fired on national TV, me, and humiliated on national television, me. But it did show that these women were contriving to like lie about me and get me fired through coercion. It actually showed that. And that was the first time in the history of The Apprentice that they ever showed Donald Trump that even maybe possibly a little bit made a bad decision. And they made me look like quite bad in previous episodes, even though I fucking ridiculously killed it. Like stupidly, it wouldn't even have been an interesting show had I not done the shit that I did in the tasks. And the tasks actually were quite spectacularly amazing. Like had they only cast people like me, which they actually could have found, it would have been fascinating to watch. I'm not joking when I'm like, oh my God, we should make a TV show just of that, because that would actually be fascinating to watch. It would be astonishing to see right now today the top entrepreneurs from like 18 to 42 that just like have banged it out of the park with a variety of, maybe even younger, maybe like a younger one and an older one, all the comeback people. Oh my God, even like almost like an Olympics of business, and have different age categories and show how they each, oh, that's a good idea, how they each differently compete in tasks. This is why I need a multi-show deal with a streaming service, because there's so many things that I do in so many businesses that are like very old school that actually still work because people still respond to it, especially people from my Gen X age group who have the most money. I don't know who has the most money right now. It might still be the boomers, but they still respond to old school tactics and etc. So like a marriage to mix them up and then mix up the best of all of those for competitions against each other, that actually there could be a real litmus for a TV show in that. So anyhow, I am so far off in the weeds. So I feel like Mark said, hey, call her. And he calls me, please hold for Donald Trump. And I get on the phone and he's like, Andrea, why didn't you tell me? And I was like, what? And he's like, blood on the boardroom walls? I'm like, I know. And he's like, why didn't you tell me what they were doing? They lied about George. And I was like, Yeah. Or whatever he said. I don't know if he said lied about George or some other thing because they just made up so many all of the things. And the food poisoning allegations did not make the air. Thank God. Thank God. But did they happen? Yeah. They fucking sure did. Was I terrified for the 6 or 9 or 12 months since I recorded that show until the time it aired? Girl, I thought they were going to make it look like I tried to murder someone over a fucking game show. I was relieved. I'm like, oh, you want to say I wasn't a good graphic designer? I have so many graphic designers. Of course I'm not a graphic designer. I am in awe of my graphic designers. I have a great design style, but I'm not the one making the things. Artists are, and I love artists, and I love that we have programs now where artists actually get paid. I fucking love that with my whole heart. I myself, not an artist, kind of a business chick. I can't design that poster if my life depends on it. I can make it look fine. Can I make it look the way that like David, who is an artist, or my brother David, who is an artist, or Dana, who is an artist, or Michu, or any Wendy, Courtney, any of the actual Hayden artists that work for me? Jenny? No, I cannot make it look like an artist looks because I'm not an artist. So if you want to say that's how I fell down on the task after I hand delivered to you every story you should have called for a bulk order, and then you made it look in the edit like I was like at the very fucking last second, like, I'm an expert in bulk sales. How much of an asshole do I look like? I look like all of the asshole. I know that, but that is not how it happened. That is only how it was edited, and it made good television. But Donald knew when he watched that episode that they made him look dumb. And what? They're not allowed to do that, but they did. And then they edited me into the next 2 episodes, the first like couple minutes, not just of 1, which would have been weird enough, but 2. Because they're like, we lost our storyteller and she can encapsulate all of these things and is pulling in these elements. Then I was out of 1 show, then I was on the last 2 episodes because I was brought back in to run the final task. Which I did. That is a whole other story. First of all, let's roll it back. When Donald got on the line, he's like, hey, how are you doing? I heard you're at Milken. And I go, yeah, Steve Wynn offered me a job last night. And he goes, what? I love Steve. And I said, yeah, because I lost the thread of that story too. So Mike Milken comes up to me at this private party and says, hey, Steve Wynn is here. And I say, okay, cool. And he said, Steve Wynn's wife, you are her favorite person that's ever been on The Apprentice. And I was like, she has good taste. Because what else am I going to say? And he said, actually, Steve is losing his eyesight. That is well known now. There's no secrets are told. But at the time, nobody knew that, nor did he present himself in any way like he couldn't see quite properly. He might have gotten some kind of corrective surgery now. I don't know. But at the time, things were happening. He couldn't see quite right. So he would have a person next to him when he was in a place. And we were at some, like, I think there was like a Saudi prince or a prince of Jordan. I don't remember. There was some dignitary from the Middle East, maybe from Kuwait. I don't recall. In this room of ballers of every manner of business and politics and global geo everything. And I am in heaven because I have been studying this forever, starting when I was reading like Noam Chomsky when I was a child. And I know who all the people are, and they're just like, you're just some dumb contestant on The Apprentice. I'm like, cool. I know you don't know my whole backstory, but I'm just like taking every second of this in. And Mike Milken comes up to me and says, hey, Steve Wynn has this issue with this whatever, I can't remember even what it's called, a degenerative optical thing. Will you walk him around? Because obviously I'm like I might have been the only woman in the room actually. And I'm an attractive woman and I can be very on his arm in a way that doesn't look like he is requiring help. And just like saying in his ear, whoever people are, because everybody is wearing a name tag. And honestly, I recognize them by sight, most of them, because these are the biggest people in business and politics in the world. And I've been studying geopolitics at this point for like 14 years. And so I'm in heaven. And Mike barely knows who I am, and for sure doesn't know that my mentors are my mentors, and for sure doesn't understand the degree to which I know who he is or the degree to which I understand trading and what happened with him. So Steve and I start talking and he was like, well, why even were you on there? Because you're so smart and you've done all these companies, and my wife looked you up and she said you have XYZ, and he literally told me back my whole business background, and I'm like, how the fuck do you even know who I am, Steve Wynn? This is Wild. And I just answered him in funny, whatever responses. And he said, well, why did you do the show though? And I said, well, I thought I would get a PhD in commercial construction in exchange for the use of my brain for a year. And he said, I'll give you that. I said, what? He offered me a job on the spot that paid $500,000 a year. And the thing is, though, the show had already been on the air for 9 weeks. If I would have met him in week 1 of the show, I would have taken it. And I keep saying I would have taken the prize, which I feel like I would have. But my companies at this point were experiencing explosive growth. We were already over 400% growth that year just from me being on The Apprentice. Because remember, I insisted that my title on the show be sticker company owner. And this is 2006. So people are just barely starting to use like search engines. And they are finding Sticker Junkie and placing massively huge orders because I'm the chick that was just on The Apprentice. So I cannot take his very generous offer to go do my PhD in commercial constructions with Win Enterprises. I couldn't do it. Otherwise, I would have been able to help on the development of one of his fucking buildings in Vegas, which I would have loved to do. But literally at that point, I didn't have a Brian then. I didn't have a chief operations officer that could like grow a company 400x and figure out how to bring printing in-house because we were outsourcing back then. But I managed it after that, but I couldn't be outside of my company managing that. So I did have to decline that offer. So when I was talking to Trump that day, I was like, I just declined a job offer from Steve. Oh, I love Steve Wynn. Oh, what he's doing out there. I think it was before Trump Towers. And he's like, oh, in Vegas. I always love what he's doing out there. He's such a good guy. And then he said to me, Andrea, why didn't you tell me? And I was like, what? He's like, blood on the boardroom walls? Are you fucking kidding me? And I was like, nah, I did tell you. I did. He's like, no. He got so mad. He got immediately mad. He's like, no, you did not. You did not tell me. And I said, well, yes, I did, though. I really did. I said, if you cannot see the difference between these 3 ladies sitting right here next to me and myself, then I have nothing else for you. And I told you that because they were yelling and screaming and acting. It's just ridiculous. So inappropriate. So no, all of the people I don't want to sit next to in a business meeting where I am trying to build something or get a permit passed in a commercial building. And they were so non-serious. They were so much no for getting anything done that I was like, if you can't see that overseeing like that I just will build anything that you ask me to go build right now, then I don't have anything else to offer you. Then you and I are not going to do business together. And he did hear me and he really took a long pause and he said, I said, because then I broke the pause, which is against the 48 laws of power, but I did. And I said, I really did tell you. I really did explain it to you because I did. And he said, you didn't tell me loud enough. I, in fact, did not tell him loudly enough. That is not my style. If somebody doesn't understand a nuanced, very smart thing, they're probably not going to be somebody I'm going to do business with. Case in point. I get a lot of flack now because I obviously disagree. Obviously. With all of what's happening right now, or 98% of it. I think it's salvageable. I do. I think there's a whole bunch of things that could be trimmed back. I think there's a whole lot of ways that we could generously reproportion our tax dollars so everybody actually wins. And I think whoever actually does that, I don't think it will be the Democrats and I don't think it will be the Republicans. I think whoever figures out how to convey to the American people that we can repurpose the tax dollars that we actually spend ourselves into a thing that everybody likes and nobody hates. And we can kind of let go of the most hyper incendiary issues so that we all win. I think that enough people can hear that at some point to where we can do something that is like that. I actually do believe that, which makes me insane. Delulu. I know. But I do think that it is still possible to save America because I think so many people are so tired of the fire hose of chaos. And so many people are so tired of the doom scroll of just seething anger that we all feel. And so many people want to just come back together because they know that when they run into their neighbor, that they're sure that they're on the opposite side of politics with, that neighbor is not actually badly intended. They just believe something that is very far away from what they themselves believe. But if they just talk about it instead of being vitriolically angry at the tiniest notion that we might think differently than each other and just talk about why and then talk about all of the things that we agree on, that there would be so much more agreement. Like, you shouldn't go bankrupt if your kid gets cancer. Almost nobody's going to disagree with you on that. And anybody that does is not a good person. And so there's so many things that we could find harmony on. And you can call me any name for wanting that to be what happens next. But I hope that that's what happens next. So that was the episode of The Apprentice where I got fired, and I did get fired. And there even was a glimmer of thought that protocol might be broken again and he might hire me on as the next apprentice just at the season finale. But that was a fading, shimmering, momentary thing. And I didn't really care either way because I was so disenchanted by all of it. But a lot happened after my firing episode made the air, including doing the final task with the bare naked ladies. There's a whole story there because they were very aware of sticker junkie and anti-establishment clothing, and I had so much fun with those guys. So until next time, enjoy your popcorn, enjoy your wine, and join me next week in the Sticker Wars episode where I promise that I will bring all of the tea. I'll see you next time, guys.